Normal's police chief says his mistake at the Sierra airport is a teachable moment for his department. That's one of the things you need to know to start your day for Friday, August 30th. I'm Ryan Denham, and this is WGLT's The Leadoff. Now let's lead off with that incident that Normal's police chief wants to turn into a teachable moment. WGLT's Eric Stock has the story.
Transportation security officers at Central Illinois Regional Airport discovered a loaded gun in a travel bag during a pre-check security screening last weekend. The gun belonged to Normal Police Chief Steve Petrilli.
I was disappointed in myself. I expect myself to be, more dialed in than what I was that morning. That incident should have never happened.
Petrilli called it a mistake and said he told his staff about it to make sure his officers are mindful of where they keep their weapons.
If there's something that I do that, whether a mistake, something that I come across, I'm going to own it every time. And if I can use that as to be a formative, incident that I can pass along to somebody else that keeps them from making the same mistake, that's my job as a leader and as an organization, and just being a productive, citizen in this community.
The TSA says leaving a loaded gun can lead to fines of up to $15,000. Petrilli says the agency told him he would face a warning and temporary loss of pre-check privileges. It's the first gun confiscated at the Bloomington airport since at least 2022. Petrilli says security officers stored the weapon at the airport until his return flight. For The Leadoff, I'm Eric Stock.
Here's some other stories we're following in the WGLT newsroom. Union workers picketed outside Stateville Correctional Center near Joliet to amplify their concerns about how the planned closure and reconstruction of the prison could affect their jobs and the state's prison system as a whole. The Tazewell County Board turned out the lights this week on a proposed solar farm project west of Morton. And Labor Day weekend means crowded highways, so the Illinois Department of Transportation is opening up some extra lanes to help. That'll happen this afternoon through Monday night around the state. You can see a full list of changes on IDOT's website. And you can find more on all these stories at WGLT.org. A couple of nights ago, Wednesday, you might have spotted some swarms of small winged bugs all around Bloomington-Normal, which just seemed to descend on us out of nowhere. But what were they, and why did they appear so suddenly? To find out, WGLT's Lindsay Jones spoke with Christopher Dietrich, Illinois' state entomologist, about the buggy phenomenon and what he thinks they might have been.
If someone saw them and said they looked like winged ants, that's a distinct possibility this time of year. Colonies of ants tend to produce winged individuals that go off and form new colonies. It's basically the males and the females get together and mate, and then the females go off and drop their wings, and then they establish a new colony. Or this time of year, they're mostly just looking for a place to spend the winter. Since the weather is still pretty warm, they could potentially go ahead and start forming a new colony after the males and females court and mate, and then the females can go find a suitable place to form a colony. The other possibility that is pretty common in our area, and that's the soybean aphid. Soybean aphids are normally in the summer, they're out in the soybean fields and they're wingless. But then towards the end of the summer, they start producing winged individuals, which include males and females. And so they, like the swarms of ants, they go off and they mate, and the females then go to buckthorn plants where they lay their eggs.
I think one of the things that was really striking about what had happened was the sheer number of these bugs that had appeared at one time and how they kind of lingered. It's not something that happens every single year. And so I'm wondering, are there conditions that favor this kind of thing happening? Are those conditions in play this year, or is it just a random occurrence?
It's some of both, actually. The insects in general tend to favor warm, wet conditions, which we've had a lot of this summer. I mean, just really warm weather, lots of rain, lots of humidity. That tends to really promote insect reproduction, and they can build up huge numbers over the course of the summer. And then you see these outbreaks and swarms like you described, and so there can be a lot of different species that respond positively to the kind of weather conditions that we've had this summer. I've had other reports of other kinds of insects that seem to be a lot more numerous this year than in typical years.
Does their presence signify anything other than favorable conditions?
Well, I think, in the case of some species, like soybean aphids in particular, we have to take into consideration things that people are doing, basically planting lots of species that don't belong here, that aren't native to our area, planting, huge monocultures of certain crops, and that those kinds of unnatural situations tend to give rise to large numbers of particular species. Of course, it's detrimental to a lot of the native species, like the native bees and so forth that are pollinators, having their habitats destroyed or fragmented. A lot of the native species are actually in decline in Illinois, and some of these exotic species, we call them, are much more prevalent than they would normally be.
I think some people, when confronted with a large presence of bugs, no matter what that bug may or may not be, the temptation might be there to figure out some way to eliminate the presence of those bugs. That can take various forms. That could involve, spraying some sort of home grade pesticide, something like that. Is that something that you would recommend against?
Generally, I think in these situations, the use of pesticides is not very helpful, just because you're kind of treating the symptoms and not the underlying causes of what's going on. So you might kill a few bugs in a particular place, but in the case of big swarms like this, there's just going to be more that are showing up.
That was WGLT's Lindsay Jones speaking with state entomologist Christopher Dietrich. You can read the full interview at WGLT.org. And before we let you go, Bloomington's Labor Day Parade steps off Monday morning at 10 from Front and Center Streets downtown to proceed west and south toward Miller Park. Be on the lookout for the WGLT crew in the lineup, too. And that's it for today. I'm Ryan Denham. The show is produced by Rosalie Truback. You can subscribe to the Leadoff on the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.